You've probably had a drink at some point that made the room feel warmer, made strangers feel like friends, made a bad day feel a little more survivable. It feels like a modern invention, something built for parties and bars and Friday nights. But the truth is far stranger. Humans didn't invent alcohol. Alcohol found humans first, and it may have shaped who you are long before anyone ever built a glass to hold it. To understand this, you have to stop thinking about alcohol as something people made on purpose and start thinking about it as something that already existed in nature, waiting. Ripe fruit ferments. Sugar breaks down, wild yeast moves in, and within days, rotting fruit on a forest floor can contain measurable amounts of ethanol, the same chemical compound found in beer and wine. This wasn't rare. It was constant, ambient, scattered across the forest floor wherever fruit fell and sat in the heat. Long before humans existed, our primate ancestors were already encountering it. Biologist Robert Dudley proposed something called the Drunken Monkey Hypothesis. His research suggested that early primates who could detect and metabolize small amounts of alcohol in fermenting fruit had a survival advantage. The smell of ethanol acted like a signal flare, pointing toward a reliable source of ripe, calorie-dense food. Animals that could smell it from a distance could find food faster than animals that couldn't. Over millions of years, that pressure may have shaped the digestive systems of primates, including the ancestors of modern humans, favoring those who could process alcohol efficiently instead of getting sick from it. This means the human body's relationship with alcohol didn't start with civilization. It started in the trees. There's genetic evidence to back this up. Researchers studying the enzyme ADH4, which helps metabolize ethanol, found a specific mutation that appeared in the common ancestor of humans, chimpanzees, and gorillas roughly 10 million years ago. That single genetic shift dramatically increased the ability to break down alcohol efficiently. 10 million years before the first fermented drink was ever intentionally brewed, your ancestors were already biologically preparing for it. So by the time actual humans show up in the story, the stage was already set. The question was never whether humans would encounter alcohol. It was only a matter of time before they figured out how to make it on purpose. Archaeological evidence suggests that happened surprisingly early. At a site called Reshaped Cave in modern-day Israel, researchers found stone mortars containing residue consistent with beer brewing, dated to roughly 13,000 years ago. That's before agriculture, before the domestication of wheat and barley as reliable food crops. This detail matters more than it seems. For decades, the dominant theory was that humans domesticated grain purely to eat it, and that alcohol was a lucky byproduct discovered later. But evidence like Reshaped Cave has fueled a different, more provocative idea, sometimes called the beer before bread hypothesis. The suggestion that early humans may have started deliberately cultivating grain, in part, specifically to brew alcohol, not just to bake it. Think about how strange that is. One of the foundational turning points in human history, the shift from nomadic foraging to settled agriculture, may have been partly motivated by the desire to keep drinking. But why would that motivation be strong enough to reshape an entire way of life? This is where the social science becomes just as important as the archaeology. Anthropologist Edward Slingerland has argued that alcohol served a specific psychological function in early human groups. It temporarily lowered activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for self-monitoring, caution, and social filtering. In small doses, that reduction in self-control wasn't a bug. It was useful. Slingerland's research suggests that shared alcohol consumption may have helped strangers build trust faster, encouraged creative problem-solving, and reinforced group bonding rituals in early communities. At a moment in human history when cooperation between unrelated groups was becoming increasingly critical for survival. In other words, alcohol may have functioned as a kind of social lubricant tool millennia before anyone used that phrase. Not because it made people reckless, but because it made people, briefly, less guarded. That idea connects to something almost every culture on Earth developed independently: Fermented drinks show up across wildly different civilizations with no direct contact with each other. Rice wine in ancient China, dating back roughly 9,000 years based on residue found in pottery from the Jiahu site. Grape wine in the region of modern-day Georgia, with archaeological evidence dating back roughly 8,000 years. Pulque, fermented from agave sap, produced by cultures in ancient Mesoamerica. Mead, fermented from honey, appearing independently across parts of Europe, Africa, and Asia. Different continents, different ingredients, different climates, yet the same basic behavior kept reappearing. Humans, again and again, independently discovered fermentation and chose to keep it. That kind of repeated independent invention is a strong signal in anthropology. When cultures with no contact with each other arrive at the same solution, it usually means that solution is solving something deeply and universally human. So what was it solving? Partly nutrition, since fermentation can make certain nutrients more bioavailable and can help preserve food safely for longer periods, which mattered enormously before refrigeration. Partly safety, since the fermentation process could kill off certain pathogens present in untreated water sources, making fermented drinks in some cases safer to consume than the water available nearby. And partly, as Slingerland's research suggests, something deeply social. A shared ritual that helped strangers become allies faster than sober interaction alone typically could. This reframes the entire question. When did ancient humans start drinking alcohol? Isn't really asking about a single invention. It's asking about a partnership between biology and culture that goes back tens of millions of years further than most people assume. Long before agriculture, primates were already evolving the enzymes to handle it. Long before written history, humans were already brewing it deliberately. And long before modern science understood any of the neurochemistry involved, entire civilizations had already figured out, through trial and instinct, that a shared cup could turn strangers into something closer to family. The next time you're at a table with a drink in front of you, watching people loosen up, laugh a little louder, and lean a little closer, you're not just watching a modern social ritual play out. You're watching a 10-million-year-old biological adaptation shake hands with a 13,000-year-old cultural invention, both still doing exactly what they were shaped to do. You've probably had a drink at some point that made the room feel warmer. It turns out that feeling isn't new at all. It might be one of the oldest tricks your biology and your ancestors ever agreed on together.